Hello viewers, today we will be cleaning and servicing. I shouldn't say today, this is probably going to take several days. During this video we will be cleaning and servicing this General Electric F11W 3-speed window ventilator fan. The first thing we're going to do is take the blade off. There is an Allen key on the center there. Right there. It is okay. It is out of balance. We have to balance it too. But anyways, so let's get this thing off of here. And this may be very difficult because I suspect this has never been removed. Oh, actually that was very easy. Okay, so I'm going to take this out several turns. I suspect there probably, well, it doesn't look like it from the outside, but there may be a notch in the shaft which this sits in. So I want to make sure this is taken out enough that it won't catch on anything as I pull it off. Okay, that should be good enough. So now we're going to use a puller. I've got the big puller out. And I think the best place to sit it is going to be I'm thinking on one of these one of those fins. So let's see what we can do here. You can see the blade did move toward us on the shaft. However, now we have a problem because that's as far in as the tip of the puller will go, and it's not quite ready to come off just yet. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a bolt. This one's a little bit longer than I like, but it's the only one I have that fits. And I'm going to put this in here, and I'm going to put the tip of the puller on here, and then we're going to pull it again the rest of the way off. Okay, so we've run into a second problem. The venturi is smaller than the length of the blades. So in order to get this off, we're going to have to first remove the whole assembly from the frame. Now I knew that these were not easy to service, but this is getting ridiculous. Okay, now with those bolts out of there, we should be able to separate the fan part from the frame. And now I think the blade is actually free now. It is. Okay, so now we have the blade that we can clean up and the motor. This is the notch in the shaft that I mentioned earlier. You have to unscrew that Allen key enough so that it will slide off this lip here and not get caught in there. Okay, so now the struggle continues as we get into the motor. I think we're going to have to pull this plastic piece off first. Okay, there's the switch, which you can see is actually starting to wear off. I suspect this is probably fixing to break any soon. Let's see, we need another wrench to get that off. I'm going to be very careful with this because it is cracking. Maybe I'll put some glue on there. Keep it together for as many years as possible. Okay, so now we have access to the motor here, and it looks like we can remove these two screws. Perhaps not with that screwdriver. That's not annoying. Not at all. Okay. So now let's get these screws the rest of the way out, and this should release the motor from the guard. There we go. So let's see, we want to be very careful here because we're working with a wire that's connecting straight to the windings, so we don't want this to undergo any additional flexing besides what it absolutely has to do. And this is kind of curious. Whoops. Should get that blade before that gets spent. I almost wonder if this has been serviced before. If there was anybody that would service this fan, it would be the guy that owned it before me. No doubt about it. It kind of looks like this has been tampered with. Definitely looks like it's been tampered with. Huh. Well, that's interesting. So, behind this piece, normally I don't think it would look like that, but behind that piece is the oil wicking, and then the infamous single bearing. And so what we're going to do is we're going to tap a nail into there. I've seen some people drill into there, which I think is a very terrible idea because you get metal shards in there potentially. Whereas if you tap in a nail, there's really not much that can go wrong. I gotta find a nail first. Here's the nail we're going to use. And I wish this wasn't on here. I'd much rather it be sitting on the carpet. Let's see if I can separate this from the guard. It doesn't look like it's willing to come off, but let's see. Perhaps we can convince it to do so. No, that wasn't hard at all. Yep. Okay, sometimes you just have to try. Because not everything is as it seems. Okay, so now we can take this off and get this whole cage out of the picture for now, which will make it easier to work with. And I'm going to go ahead and put this blade, I get to go over here, it's safe enough. Okay, so now I really think this has been opened up at some point. That's incredible. I'm going to tap into the edge of it. Actually, that may be too far over. We got to go in a little bit more. Okay, this is a pretty thick piece of metal. And there we go, we're through. Now, if this was working properly, we could just put some oil in there and be done with it. But since I do believe this has been tampered with, probably correctly, but just to make sure, because this is something I'm going to use extensively if I can get it to work well, Okay. Well, this may have been put on better than the original thing was. Okay. I don't know what is that. Maybe some kind of a glue that's on there. I don't know. But that thing isn't budging at all. I bent my stinking pointer stick. Okay. Well, that's not at all what I was expecting. So now I'm a little bit unsure what the next thing to do is going to be. Ultimately, I don't think I'm going to get this off through any reasonable means. Yeah, it's just flexing. It's not showing no interest in coming off. Well, then this is what we're going to do. We're going to oil it, and let's see if the spin down time improves to be satisfied. Actually, no, before I do that, now that the blade is off, I want to run it up and let's see. Oh, this is that's not too good either. We're gonna have to fix that. That's ready to come off of there and arc to something. Actually, several of these wires are not what I like. Okay, let's see here. Okay, that should be low. Yikes. That's not sounding too good at all. Well, I may have to get this open if I can't get that sound to go away. Well, since this is where we need to put the oil, let's go ahead and drip some oil in there. I'm going to really fill this thing up. That worked very well, actually. Okay, let's try the next speed. Okay, and high. It's got kind of a cool startup sound to it. Oh, when it's not making that stupid vibration. Okay, so that lubrication was successful, clearly. I definitely think this was tampered with at some point, which is fascinating to me. I think this was definitely stripped apart and oiled, and actually you can see the oil is starting to come out the front now, which is, I guess the bearing is pretty rooted. But anyways, it definitely oiled all the way through, which is exactly what we were looking for. So that's it. I see no reason to go any further with this. The bearing is spinning very freely and everything seems fine. So now we need to clean everything out, and usually compressed air is the best way to do that, but this is kind of sticky on there, so we may have to what the heck's all that? That came out of the motor. Oh, you know what that's from? That's from the screw. Okay. This has been cleaned up pretty well, relatively easily too. So that's that. The motor is cleaned and serviced and lubricated to my satisfaction. So now let's clean up some of the wiring here. Some things I don't like about the way this is wired. There's multiple offenses here actually. You look at all these tabs where the wires are soldered onto, there's excess wire floating around here. We got this excess piece, that's not so bad because it's on the side. This excess piece, this excess piece, and these are kind of soldered pretty far back, which I don't like. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to snip off some of that excess wire to prevent the possibility of that arcing onto something it's not supposed to. And I don't like how this is all flattened out here either. Something's not quite right about that. But anyways, that's that, and then this I'm going to redo because this is kind of flaky anyways. That wire nut just fell right off of there when I moved it. Not even really fitting in there. A bigger wire nut probably could have been used. Okay, so that's that. We're ready to put this motor back on. So I'll clean the guard first and then I'll put the motor back on. I wiped down the guard. It's not perfect, but it's only blowing out, so I'm not too concerned about it. Ultimately it needs to be repainted, but it's good enough that I'm going to leave it alone for now. So let's begin to mount the motor back in place. I don't know if this is going to leak a whole lot of oil as I hold it in a vertical position. Hopefully not. I'm going to feed the cord back through here. I think the cord is going to come down at the bottom here where this little opening is there. So I'm going to have the cord like this. And it's relatively simple to secure back on here. It's only these four bolts. Okay, so that's all back together. Let's give it another test. It sounds as healthy as a rooted bearing motor can. Okay, now we're going to move on to dealing with the blade's balance issue. And for that, we're going to mount it back into the frame, because I think that'll be easiest to work with it that way. It's covered in pollen, but it's still pollen season, so I'm not going to go too crazy over it. Actually, the blade has to go on before I put the cabinet back on. So I guess I should stop here and clean the blade up a little bit before proceeding. It's far from perfect, but it's better than when it came in. So that's that. Put the blade on. Maybe a little difficult to get it on based on the difficulty that existed in getting it off. So I may have to slowly tap it on. Okay. So now I will tighten the Allen key again. I'm going to put this on pretty tight because this is exposed to the outside, and if the blade comes off, you know, it could go and hit somebody out in the yard or something, so we don't want that to exist as a possibility. So, clearly the bearings are substantially happier than they were before. Spinning very nicely now. We may even be able to tell where the heavy blade is just by the position of the shaft here, let's see. Maybe not. What you want to look for is it to spin back. Okay, so we're going to have to just do it manually. That's fine. So I'm running out of time here for today. So let's get this back on. And then we'll maybe finish later tonight, actually. Okay, I'm going to put the two top bolts on just enough to hold it in place. This one's not threading very nicely. Okay. Well, let's plug it up and test it again. This will be the first test with a somewhat properly running situation. The blade is in balance, but the motor at least is going to be happier than it was before. Turn that thing off for a minute. We'll start off on low. Something doesn't sound quite right about that bearing. It almost seems like it's scraping on the back. I'm not going to run it up at full power because everything's just going to blow away out here. I'll wait till we get it in the window for that. Still doesn't sound too good at all. Well, that's disappointing. It's very, very noisy still. And the airflow is, the blade set itself is really quite quiet. If it wasn't so rattly like that, it would be a very, very quiet fan. Well, we're going to have to do a little bit more work on this. I'll balance the blade. Hopefully that'll get rid of some of the vibration. Of course, we have to also keep in mind the bearing is rooted, so it may never run properly ever again. I wish there was somebody, well, there probably is somebody who could make a new shaft or machine something that we could use to make these motors usable after the bearing wears out. Because unfortunately that does seem to be a common issue with these. Okay, we're upstairs now. And we're going to put the fan in the window, or at least try to anyways. I have two screws in this window, one here and one over here. Those are from the Sears window fan, and I don't know if they're going to be the right height for this General Electric window fan, but I really hope that they are. So, I guess we should open the window first because it's probably not easy to get it open once the fan is in there. I already know it's not, rather, because I used to use that Sears fan all the time and I could never get the window open with the fan in it. So this is going to be very difficult because what we're working with here is kind of bent. So I may have to unbend this. I don't know if this is in the camera angle or not, but that's all bent up. So let's see here what we can do with the freshly painted windowsills. It'll never look as nice again. This has to be opened up. And let's see, actually, you know what? Oh, for heaven's sakes. It's not going to fit, the screws. because the screw is going to rest right at the opening. So ultimately this is going to have to go, well, let's see what I can do. I want to test it first. If it works good, I'm going to have to move the screws. Okay, so let's see here. I have to undo these screws in order to slide out the panel, because this window is a little bit longer than the frame. The screws prefer to be lubricated. Jeez, here I am thinking this is going to be a problem. And now it's so stuck on there, I can't even get it off. Okay. Uh-oh. The side panel's not going to cooperate. Oh, jeez. Well, I guess I only need to get one of these really out. Okay. Why is that so tight? There we go. Okay. Let's see how much we need to come out. That's about good right there on that side. I think, well, you know what I can do? I can tighten it up afterwards. Okay. Let's see if I can bend this back to where it's supposed to be. That's good enough, I think. Alright, now, I know this video isn't terribly exciting. It's not showing as much of the project as I would have liked it to show here. This is really turned into quite the production. Probably would have been easier just to put an air conditioner in this window. Is this really not going to come out? Well, fine. It doesn't have to come out. I think this screw was in too far. Okay, I'm going to have to get another screwdriver. Nope, I can do it with this. Perfect. Used the wrong tool, and probably twice as long as it would take to go downstairs and get the right tool. Sometimes that's just how it is. That's hooked on that side now. So let's bring this out a little bit more. And see if I can hook it on this side. Oh, I see what I think transpired over there. I think it hooked on the frame and not the screw hole. I wonder if that's just a better way to do it. Let's see. I think it may not really matter. Okay, this is getting done off video. This is taking way too long. I got it in the window. Of course it went pretty easily once I turned the camera off. Now let's plug it up here and see what transpires. Now the screen is still in the window, and that really needs to come out for this to work properly. I don't like that sound. It's not, that is. I don't know. Oh, jeez. Okay. That's really loud. I'll have to do something about that. It's getting dark in here. I can't even see anything. Okay. Well, let's try. I think it's secure, is it? Yeah, it's secure enough. Let's go to high. It's a shame that it's rattling like that because it's really quite quiet. And despite seemingly, it shook a bit on startup, but it really isn't. I mean, it's not balanced, but it doesn't feel like it's vibrating that badly. I don't know what that is. It may be the windings. Yeah, it is the windings because it stops as soon as I turn it off. See, that would be so quiet if it wasn't making all that other additional racket. Looks like one of the blades may be slightly shorter than the others, perhaps? It's hard to tell. Let's see. Looks like this one may be a little bit shorter. Let's see if I can bend that one outwards a bit. Maybe take up a little bit more weight. Let's see if that makes it any better. Not really. Maybe marginally. Definitely have to do something about that vibration. Because, wow, this would be so quiet if it wasn't for that. Well, we know it runs. So now I'll open some windows on the other side of the house and let's see how much air it moves through. I have 4 windows open right now. It's quite impressive how much air this is moving, especially considering that the screen is behind it still. And this is all the fan. There is no breeze out there right now. It's totally still. This thing moves some air. I would say the performance of this is definitely on par with that of the Sears fan. And if it weren't for all that stupid vibration, this would be a lot quieter than the Sears fan. That's all within the motor. Probably the infamous winding buzz. You can probably fix that. So it does run, and it works great. If we can get rid of that noise, this will definitely become a regularly used piece.